Let's catch up with the latest business news now. And here in France, more general strikes planned towards the end of the year. And now the government appears to be ready to back down on some of its planned pensions reforms. Yuka Royer is here to tell us more. Yuka, I guess the withdrawal to try and simmer those protests?
Well, that's right. Well, pension reform has been a particularly thorny issue in French politics, and it now appears that reports have emerged that the current government may be considering a Plan B. President Emmanuel Macron has already watered down his plan to radically reform France's generous state pension schemes in an attempt to avert strikes and protests. He has insisted that the reforms will go ahead, though, but now it appears that the government may put on the brakes. Camille Nederlek reports.
A reformer fearful of reform. The French government is reportedly looking at different ways to overhaul pensions, and Plan A may no longer be on the table. The government had planned to introduce a universal pension to simplify the current system, which has 42 different regimes. Coming into effect from 2025, it would have hit those born in 1963 onwards, though some pension schemes would have had a 15-year transition period. But now the government has doubts and is considering alternatives. One option is to only impose the reforms on the youngest, or to significantly push back their implementation. That would ease tensions between the government and France's transport workers, until now able to retire in their 50s. Some French MPs don't see any reason to rush.
We're not going to bring the whole system down in December 2024 to then start something else. There'll be overlap that could last several years. That's what we've agreed.
It seems like this one that the government is trying to avoid. Now that Gilets jaunes protests have finally petered out, Paris doesn't want to add fresh fuel to the fire. Most people in France don't have private pensions and rely only on the state pension, meaning that any system overhaul is especially high stakes and likely to be extremely controversial. In past decades, governments have repeatedly tried to introduce pensions reform, but have so far failed to bring about meaningful change. 8 unions are calling for a strike on the 5th of December.
Let's move on to global trade. In less than 24 hours, the United States threatened tariffs on $7.5 billion worth of European imports are set to take effect. The measure is taken in retaliation for European subsidies to plane maker Airbus. The World Trade Organization has formally given its green light for the tariffs on EU goods, including cheese and wine. Washington is also set to decide by November the 14th whether to impose another set of tariffs of up to 25% on cars and auto parts. On Wednesday, though, Donald Trump met Italy's President Sergio Mattarella at the White House and said that he was keen to avoid an escalation in a broader trade battle.
We welcome Italy's support for a mutually beneficial trade agreement with the EU that ensures a level playing field for American workers, and it hasn't been that for many, many years. I could solve the problem instantly, but it would be too harsh. It would involve tariffs on European products coming into this country, and for right now, we're going to try and do it without that. But that would solve the problem instantly, because the United States is not being treated fairly.
Let's check in on the day's trading action. Deepening Brexit concerns weighing on sterling, the British pound slipped after Northern Ireland's Democratic Unionist Party said it could not support the proposed Brexit deal as it stood. As you can see, the British pound down over half a percentage point, both against the dollar and the EU. On the stock markets, London's FTSE opened above the flat line, but that's largely because of the falling pound. Paris and Frankfurt both opened in negative territory. Asian shares were mixed as officials signalled work remained to be done on a US-China partial trade deal. You can see just slightly earlier, just Hong Kong was up in positive territory. The rest was in the red. And finally, pop a bottle, not a tube, says Italy. Authorities there have confiscated 250 tubes of Prosecco and Pink Peppercorn flavoured Pringles, saying they violated the country's origin protection rules. The name Prosecco was granted DOC, or denomination of controlled origin, status in 2009, and since then it can only be used if authorised by the region's bubbly wine producers. Luca Zaia, the president of the Veneto region, has tweeted this photo saying no to abuse and fraud. Obviously, this is the tube of the said Pringles crisps. Now, they were released as a special variety for last year's Christmas season, and Pringles says that it's not planning to make them anymore.
A little bit late there then on that debate.
It's a bit late. So they were still on the shelves apparently in supermarkets.
OK, Yuka Royer, thanks a lot for that business update.